that all this, and she starts pointing at all the photos on the walls with all these icons, doesn't mean anything because you don't mean anything to yourself. And that broke my soul, and I started to cry. And she's like, I can help you. Do you want help? I said, I'll do anything. I'm desperate.
Connect with us on the Emotion Wellness Podcast for a transformative journey of human connection. Witness personal stories, improve your mental health education, and acquire valuable resources for optimizing your well-being. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.
Welcome to the Emotion Wellness Podcast. My name is Jason, and as usual, I'm here with my boy, Mr. Frank Parisi.
Frank Parisi's in the house, and we have, first of all, I want to just say today is a very special day for me because I have in the studio 3 of my closest people in my life. And we have the most special guest today, my brother, recovery advocate, mental health advocate, just one of the most amazing human beings. I got to start with that. I mean, you have a million accolades to your life. But
he also has an amazing haircut.
He has an amazing haircut, like Jason, I have to admit. This is the bald crew today.
He brought 2 guys in here today. Both have
You know what I mean?
like, all right, we're in. We're good.
Founder of Prince Marketing Group.
Yes.
My brother, Darren Prince, the GOAT agent. But more than that, just an amazing human being, brother. I'm so grateful that you took time to come on the podcast with us. So welcome.
We planned this a couple months ago, right? We knew I was coming.
Yeah.
No way we weren't going to find time.
Yeah.
But the first sentence says it all. That's the most important thing. You know, when we're given a gift in life, is knowing that we got to give it back to keep it and to be a voice to help so many that are sick and suffering.
That's our main goal in this life, more than anything else. So welcome to the show, brother. I know everything about your life. I've read your book. I know you. But, the audience doesn't. So give us a little background about who's Darren Prince, where's he from, and what's kind of started you on this journey of where you're at today.
Well, so I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey. I had a great, loving family. There was dysfunction like any other family. But my father became a sponge to like his business knowledge, and he always saw in me things that I never saw in myself. And I often say, I speak all over the world for recovery galas and mental health galas and corporate events. And, I talk about when I look back, I think I was probably a prime victim, prime candidate for addiction because I was in small classrooms and 5 kids, 6 kids. I was told I had a learning disability, but my father pulled out in me what my strengths were. And I started a very successful mail-order baseball card company in 1984.
How old were you at that time?
14. Wow. And this was before the boom, before the internet. Like right now, it's, sports cards are as blue chip of an investment as they've ever been. That gave me an external space of validation for myself. But I always had that lack on the inside. So when the money came and then the notoriety came, I was able to, buy anything and everything I wanted, including drugs to party with all my so-called friends that were all the fake friends that came along for the ride. So I was buying a lot of friendships, and but it was okay because I needed it. I think you know what I'm talking about as somebody in recovery. I needed whatever it was around me, whatever it took to just feel like I was the man. Yeah. And, our healer friend Lingerie said, looking back at that time in your life, you wanted all the men to know not only they had all the money, but you had the woman. And the 2 things that, really at the end of the day don't mean anything unless you find that one good woman in your life, which I do have now with Nutsa, my fiance, as you know. But then the agency business came into my life through some tremendous contacts. I got to meet Muhammad Ali and work directly with him and smoke.
How did that happen?
So I had a designer that introduced me to Harlan Warner, who was Muhammad Ali's agent for about 40 years. And Harlan became a mentor and a dear friend. And I met him for the first time, I think, in 1992. And I called him up, and I was fascinated at these sports card shows to see Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Pete Rose, Willie Mays, all these huge athletes signing autographs. And to me, that was so much cooler than selling baseball cards. So I wanted to go for the biggest name out there. And I heard through the grapevine that Muhammad Ali does some of these autograph signings. So my buddy introduced me to Harlan, who was great. My first signing with Muhammad was, I think, maybe around 1993 up in Boston. And that day was just life-changing. I mean, it was me, Muhammad, his attorney, Kim at the time, me, my boy, all my Italian friends, my boy, Greg Bruno, Rob Belcour, all the kids I grew up with. We drove a U-Haul up to Boston with like hundreds of gloves and photos and trunks, and literally got to spend 5-6 hours in a hotel ballroom with the champ. And it was just unbelievable. I mean, as euphoric as an experience I've ever had in my life. A lot of people say this, including Lionel Richie, who we got to see a couple months ago. Newt was a finalist on American Idol, so they're very close. And we would always talk about the aura around people like Smoking Joe and Ali. But Ali had something nobody ever had. And where you could just be in a room with him, bump into him on the street. He would levitate, literally get off the ground this much. And you would feel like the most important human in the world being around him. And the world would just stop. And, from that experience, Harlan, Muhammad's wife, Lonnie, the whole team loved the way that I was so OCD with making sure things were perfected for him. Every single detail was flawless, that they brought me into his camp to work for Team Ali. And Harlan told me, look, you have a huge opportunity living in New Jersey. You need to get down to Philadelphia and find a way to get in with Smoking Joe Frazier, because it's the greatest rivalry in the history of global sports. And you're an hour and a half away from Philly. What I would do is develop a relationship with him, start working with him. You and I might be able to pull something off historic one day, and getting these two kings of kings together. And yes, I went down to 27. I'll never forget the address. 2917 North Broad Street. It made Newark, New Jersey look like
Philly.
Disney World. Okay? And you know what Newark is like.
Oh yeah.
So Joe got out of Joe escorted me out of the car. He wanted to walk me into the gym. Wanted to walk me back into the car. He didn't want to take no chances. And, I needed to be seen with the baddest mofo that ever walked the streets of Philadelphia. So we hit it off right away. And I didn't realize, I'm so young, bro. I'm 24 years old.
Wow.
Like, it just, both these icons were just so accessible to me. And, but I started seeing the more time I got to spend with Joe, because Ali lived in Arizona and Bering Springs, Michigan. So I didn't get as much time with him. Ali, maybe I'd see once every 6 to 8 weeks. Joe literally would start coming to my house and staying at my place. And Joe became like a second father. So I started really understanding the culture and the historic origin of these two, where Joe was just this blue-collar guy all the way, where Ali pushed the envelope a little bit too much, calling Joe an Uncle Tom and casting him as a white man's champion, and how intense the rivalry was, and how Joe took it so deep and so personally, where even his kids had to go to school with security guards, and, caused a lot of personal problems for 3 epic fights that were already sold out around the world, from closed circuit to the live gate. And so I started getting such an education where, not that I didn't love Ali, but I was like, this is really messed up. Like, Joe really got, the short end of the stick here. And if you ever watch, there's a documentary on HBO that I was a part of called One Nation Divisible, Ali Frazier. It's unbelievable, about March 8th, 1971, which is the single greatest sporting event the world's ever seen. I mean, it was so big, Frank Sinatra had to get in as a photographer for Life magazine to shoot photos ringside.
Wow. Wow.
Joe Namath, Joe DiMaggio, Joe Louis, all ringside. Hugh Hefner. It became a fashion show. It became everything we see in the world of the UFC and boxing is today. And, literally, for something to be so big that the Vietnam War stopped that night, because on that Monday, March 8th, 1971, eyes of the world were on this square ring where 2 undefeated champions never has happened before. And there was such hatred and like this bitter fuel outside the ring, where Joe felt betrayed because he got Ali his license back, and the minute he got Ali his license back, Ali turned on him. He gave Ali money. He went to the White House to meet with everybody and anyone to get his license back because he didn't enlist in Vietnam, and Joe knew this fight needed to happen, and Ali just turned on him. And Joe didn't realize that Ali was just building up the hype. And, so Joe's like, the only way I'm going to get him back is beat his ass in the ring. And that fight, you guys might be a little bit young to know this, but Joe landed, Joe is known for having the most lethal left hook in the history of boxing. And even talk about spirituality. I'll tell you a quick little story. He broke his arm. He fell out of a treehouse, and he was from Beaufort, South Carolina. I mean, you can't imagine. Joe dropped out of high school to help his dad because money was needed around the house, and not the most educated, but all the street smarts in the world that you would ever need to survive. But I mean, very, very low income. Always, struggled. And had he was a man's man. He was up at 3, 4 in the morning working on the farm, doing whatever he had to do to help provide for the mom and the dad and his brothers and sisters. So when he fell out of the treehouse and broke his arm, his mom and dad, they didn't have money to bring him to a hospital. So she set his left arm in a cast the best way that she knew how to. When he started boxing, and met up with Yank Durham, who would eventually be his world champion trainer, and saw the potential Joe had. He looked at his left arm and noticed that the way that it healed was so off that it defied the center of gravity. And if he could perfect throwing that left arm at the curvature of the way that the bone healed, it'd be the most lethal left hook in the history of boxing. And undefensible. You couldn't defend it.
Wow.
And that's why.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, so I told Mike Tyson that story, and he went wild too. Like, a lot of people don't know this. And you talk about, he had his own God shot.
Yeah.
Think about that. So, Joe hit Ali with one of the most famous left hooks in boxing in that 15th round and put Ali down. But Ali got up. I mean, he had a jaw that nobody's ever seen before. Ali got up on the count of 3 or 4, and it would have put anybody else in a coma. So, studying so much about their iconic rivalry, I noticed that, as sad as it was, Joe won that fight on unanimous position, but the winner was the loser, and the loser was the winner. Ali got more respect for getting up from that punch than Joe got for delivering it. And, so it became such a deep, personal part of my life. And even so much as when I became an agent and Joe became a client and Ali and Magic and everybody else, it became such a focus to make this, historic occasion happen, that my drug addiction also was happening. And my opiate addiction, I eventually stopped using the illegal drugs and I went to prescription drugs because I was a high-class junkie, I didn't have to do it the way a lot of people had to do it. I didn't have to go to the streets. I'd call any doctor and I'd get him on the phone with Hulk Hogan, bring him a signed boxing glove from Smoking Joe, or a jersey signed by Magic Johnson, or if there was a charity event, I would invite him to meet my clients. They're like, how could this guy have a problem? They had no idea how bad it was. I was lying, manipulating, whatever we have to do as good addicts, to get what we need to get. So when that historic moment happened in February of 2002 at NBA All-Star Weekend, it's the opening of my book, Aiming High. I, at that point, was living in an external vibration, which was really an internal solution. And everything was about the outside. Every guy looking at my life, holy crap, Darren Prince made it bigger than anybody. Look at who he's with, Pamela Anderson, Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Ali, Frazier, Chevy Chase, Dennis Rodman. But I was broken. I was miserable. And that night, the night before the NBA All-Star game, me, Muhammad, Joe's son Marvis, my boy Nikki C, Ali's wife Lonnie, and a couple of his best friend at the time, who's no longer with us, Howard Bingham, the famed photographer, we had dinner in Ali's suite. and I got to see these two kings hug and embrace and cry and apologize.
Wow.
And the only thing I knew how to do before Joe came to my room to get me, before security escorted us up to Ollie's suite, was I was snorting Oxycontins. I was snorting Oxycontins before that historic moment because I didn't feel worthy of it. And, you know, looking back at it, it's remarkable that, you know, you could get to the top, still be so broken, still be so empty. I had no idea these guys love and respected me more than I ever knew how to love and respect myself. But you understand that feeling now.
I do, brother. Yeah.
You know, because we're in such a dark, just pattern of, you know, I think the pain and the thought process of trying to change doesn't overtake the comfort of being miserable and just going through it until that God shot happens. And thank God. And we know a lot of guys in recovery never had the God shot. A lot of men and women, they just got here however they got here. You and I had a God shot. You and I had a white light moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's with us every single day when we speak, you know, because the amount of people you're helping around the world is unbelievable with your videos and your story. And God had something even deeper in store for you than he had with me. With, you know, your heart transplant. That story is just, I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's a movie.
It is. They might actually make it one. Let's see.
Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you this. So, okay, you're with Joe and you're with Muhammad, and what is that like, bro? Like, take us through? Like, how does that feel with you getting, you know, snorting OxyContin? You know, Lord, what's going on inside of you at that point?
Joe's Life Rights documentary just aired. I Am Joe Frazier, and I finally talked about a lot of intimate parts that happened in Joe's and Ali's suite. So I have no problem talking about it now. I mean, it was, you know, Joe walked in and Lonnie Ali, she's the best. She greeted Joe, gave him a big hug. Joe was diabetic. She ordered special food for Joe, you know, because we're at this massive table. It looked like it was like made for royalty. It was like a scene out of a movie. And Joe walks over to Muhammad, who's sitting on the couch. And that time, Pierre Ali was very overweight. He was bloated. His Parkinson's medicine was adding some more weight to him. And he also wasn't following the diet that he should have been following. Ali loved to eat. And so Joe walked over, and Muhammad's eyes got all big, those famed Ali eyes. And Joe grabbed his hand. He goes, "Hey, man," he goes, "come on, you got to get on up and give me a hug." And, you know, Joe had to kind of help him under his arm to lift him up and lock his back leg in. And when Ali got up, both his arms went over Joe's shoulders, and he put his head on Joe's shoulder. And I remember seeing tears going down Ali's face. And I was like, oh, my God. I was like, I can't even believe this is happening right now. And Lonnie leans over to Joe and said, "Thank you, Joe. Muhammad's just found peace." And I was just like, I cannot believe that this is happening right now. Kings, queens, world leaders. There's not a celebrity on earth that wouldn't feel there's no way this is happening. You know, at the time, I'm a 32-year-old Jewish kid from frickin' Livingston, New Jersey. How the heck did this happen to me? How in the world did this happen to me? And, you know, like I said, I didn't know how to be present for it. I knew what was going on, but I had to be out of my body, because when there is no sense of worthiness or sense of entitlement, I only knew how to do one thing: escape the thoughts in my head, escape the uncomfortability in my skin. I think you understand that.
I do understand
You
that.
know, when you look in the mirror and you don't see what everybody else sees, you want to run, you know. And even Nicky wasn't an emotional guy. I remember looking over at him, and he's got tears in his eyes, and he's like, "Bro, you did it." And, you know, the crazy thing is we thought it was over that night when we left. Marvis was a reverend, Joe's son, and him, Joe, Muhammad got into like a circle of three of them. And Marvis wanted to say a prayer. And I didn't want, at that point, I knew my place. I'm like, I'm just standing behind him. I'm like, I have no rights to be. Like, I know the story about Thrilla Manila. There's plenty of documentaries, that iconic third fight where Ali called Marvis into his locker room and said, everything I said about your dad, please know is to promote the fight. And please offer my apology. And that just made it worse, because when Marvis went running back to his dad's locker room and told him, he goes, hey, son, you're not Joe Frazier. Why didn't he tell me this? And Joe was right. He was old school about respect. Don't tell my son. Tell me to my face.
Yeah.
So Joe interrupted the Prince and, son, I got this. And they all shut their eyes. He goes, dear Lord, we have forgotten and we have forgiven. And please heal this man to allow him to enjoy his grandkids and everything he's meant to the world, and just to give him a beautiful life. And he goes, we're friends now and we want the best for each other. And literally the three of them, you could see tears just rolling down their face.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't even believe. Like, I always get chills when I tell the story, because I was like, and I'm there listening to this whole thing. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And the next day, we were taking Joe to the NBA All-Star game, because it was his hometown in Philadelphia. And I knew they were going to do a big intro for him. I get a call about an hour or two before I was heading over to the arena with Joe from the NBA. And they said, hey, we heard rumors that Joe and Ali got together last night. And that was their private moment. I know as an agent, I was like, no. I was like, I don't really know anything about that, you know, and I got to keep that like on the down low. And they said, well, in any case, we're wondering if we could sit Joe a little bit closer to Ali at the game in Celebrity Row on courtside. So I was like, yeah, you know, I think, you know, Joe would be kind of okay with it. I was like, a lot of that stuff is in the past, and, you know, shouldn't be a problem. Bro, what I didn't realize is I walk into the arena, we walk through the tunnel, and Joe and I have seat 3, 4, and 5. My boy Nicky C was with us too, who's Stallone's business partner. I think you've seen me post with him before. So it was, I was in seat 3, Joe was in seat 4, Nick was to my left, as was Joe to seat 5. And Joe walks in, the place was going nuts. I mean, you can't even imagine it was there. It was like Alicia Keys and Elton John and Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, and everybody knew this was like the Godfather of Philly, and they're all trying to get pictures. And then as we sit, and this happened every time Ali walked into any arena, stadium room, you start hearing Ali, Ali, Ali. And he walks in with his best friend Howard Bingham, the photographer. And it gets so awkward because I'm in seat 3. Joe's to my left in 4, Nick's to his left in 5. Ali comes in, gives me a hug, grabs Joe's hand, sits down right next to me in seat 2, and Howard takes seat 1. So we're dead center court. You know, billion people watching the NBA All-Star game. Jordan's in front of us, Kobe, AI, because Jordan was playing for the Wizards at the time. So they're all just like, you could see people's faces like, oh. So the NBA kind of set it up without telling me. They put them right next to each other. So I'm in between Ali and Frazier. Mind you, 30 minutes earlier, I'm snorting Vicodins and Percocets in the locker room.
Wow.
Because this, again, was a moment where I'm just going with Joe at this point, but I knew they were going to be sitting near each other. And I'm like, I got to move. And you know that there's times when you're high as a kite and something happens that triggers massive anxiety. The buzz wears off. It's such a buzzkill. So I'm sitting here, my palms sweating. I was like, I got to get up. I'm like shaking. I was like, how am I sitting in between Ali and Frazier right now? I gotta switch the seats. And Joe elbows me and he leans over. He goes, hey, boss man. And I go, yeah, he goes, switch seats with me. And I'm like, thank God. It'd be my honor. And so now it was me to Joe's left, and Ali and Frazier were sitting together, and the place just erupts.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, I heard conversations with those guys during the next 2-3 hours. That was just unbelievable. And, I mean, Diddy was there with his son, and Magic and Cookie were 5 seats to my left, and he was so happy for me. You know, I call him Irvin by his real name because he knew how hard we worked on, you know, this happening. It wasn't about money. It was just about sending a message to the world. It was in a frequency of giving, bro, because it was about, the message was, if these 2 words can make peace, why can't the rest of the world?
Yeah.
And it was just, again, it was one of those moments that was so surreal. But here's the beautiful thing about recovery. I get sober on July 2nd, 2008.
What was that like? Like,
You know,
what
I
was
felt
the clarity? Like, what happened?
I don't
How many years of addiction were you in?
I don't think it was different than any other day. I just think I was at my jumping off point. I had the gift of desperation. I met my uncle the day before from Florida who was visiting from Miami. He was with his then girlfriend, Andrea, and I never met her before either, but they paid me a surprise visit after they saw my mom. And I just had a connection with her. I never had a connection like this with a human being. I told her everything that was going on because she looked at me and said, "Is you okay? You look like you're not happy." I told her everything. And she's like, "You realize you're an addict, your life's so manageable." And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Do you realize you're powerless?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Do you realize that all this," and she starts pointing at all the photos on the walls with all these icons, "doesn't mean anything because you don't mean anything to yourself." And that broke my soul, and I started to cry. And she's like, "I can help you. Do you want help?" I said, "I'll do anything. I'm desperate." And she put me on a detox plan. The next day was July 2nd, 2008. And I flushed the last of my Suboxone, whatever the heck I was taking. And I called them at like 7 o'clock at night, freaking out after the gym. I was vomiting, diarrhea, hot flashes, cold flashes. "I can't freaking do this. I'm calling the goddamn doctor to get what I really need to get." And my uncle just started screaming, "It's the goddamn disease talking. It's time you kick the crap out of you. You've been living this way since you were 14. Get yourself to a 12-step meeting, this time for the right reasons, not because it's court ordered. And tell these people you're sick and suffering and watch the freaking goddamn miracle happen." I said, "I can't do it. I've been to the stupid meetings. I've never connected with those people." I hung up the phone, ran into the bathroom, locked the door. I was married at the time, and my then wife was banging on the door, "Don't do it, don't do it," because she was part of an overdose that I had a year earlier. And I'm going through all the pill bottles to find some non-narcotic anxiety pills that Andrea said I could take, which were Klonopin. And out came 2 extra Vicodin, which was crazy because, like, I knew I spent an hour the night before going through every medicine bottle, clearing out everything I needed just so I wasn't tempted. And I was going dry. I mean, probably should have gone into a treatment center, to be honest with you, but I white-knuckled it. And it seemed like, Frank, in that moment, because I know, like me, you had a lot of other close moments that you just weren't ready, that was the spiritual awakening. Like, oh man, exactly what I needed. What a God shot. But I wanted to live more than I wanted to die. And I fell on my knees, first time in my life, and screamed out to God, "Take the money, take the business, take the notoriety. If you give me a single day of freedom, I'll spend one day at a time taking others out of hell with me." And it was like a lightning bolt just went through my body, and this shoulder caught fire. I heard a voice, "I've got you when you're ready." And I opened my hand, I flushed the pills, stood up, and walked into the room, went online for a 12-step meeting. There was one in a church basement in the upper 80s in New York City. And I walked in, there was about 150, 200 addicts and alcoholics who were once of a hopeless state of mind. And the leader said, "Is anybody new or coming back or sick and suffering?" And there was no ego. This wasn't this super agent bullshit no more. This was life and death. And I believe God raised my hand, and he gave me the gift of desperation and crushed my ego, because that's what needed to happen. And I said, "I'm sick, I'm suffering, I need help. I got a great life out there, and I don't want to live anymore." And it's crazy, brother. It was like a dozen spiritual brothers and sisters that came over to me. Had no idea who they were. They told me things like, "Stick with the winners. It's easier to stay here than come back." They told me about the 5 A's: attitude, adjustment, accountability, acceptance, and action. I put them into my heart and into my soul. And then they told me the one that changed my life, that it's okay. They said, "Don't worry if you don't get the fellowship. If you keep showing up, the fellowship is going to get you, and we will love you before you ever learn how to love yourself." And that just gave me a connection for the first time in my life I finally felt a part of. I was listening to stories, not just what it was like to be high, but it was easy to identify what it was like to not be high. and not be on something. And that's, I said, wow, these people know what I'm feeling. This is unbelievable. And I just became addicted to meetings. I just became immersed into, meeting every single day. And even when traveling, my sponsor, Steve, called me yesterday. He's an old school Newark Italian guy. You love him. You got to meet him. He did his time, and he's got like maybe 38, 39 years now. And, he's a huge blessing. When I got to, I think about 1 year sober, I was in France, and he called me up, and he's like, hey, he goes, congrats, you know what comes tomorrow? I said, what? He goes, 1 year and 1 day. And I said, okay, because remember, it's 1 day at a time for all of us. And he goes, now listen, you've been a taker the past year. He goes, I got you dialed in to go to road meetings all over the world and bring those stories back to us. And we all love to hear that even though you're not home, you're home. And even though you don't know anyone, you know everybody. But it's time you start giving this gift away. And he goes, and I'm just thinking, a lot of people. And I think if you could generalize this journey you've been on at social media, you're going to touch a lot more people than any of us could. Mm-hmm. So I just said, okay, well, I'm going to do a post on Facebook. Instagram didn't even exist then. By the grace of God, today I'm celebrating 1 year sober. Thank you for the miracle, all my spiritual brothers and sisters. And my Facebook just goes nuts. I mean, hundreds of comments, tons of likes, text messages, DMs. My dad was so proud. My mom, being an upper middle class Jewish mom, was a bit embarrassed. She didn't like that. And the Jews and the Italians.
My mother's upset I wrote a book too, so I get it.
Yeah, Mom didn't want me writing the book. So, but my dad thought it was the greatest thing ever. And so from that, I then became on the board of advisors because Steve was working with Turning Point at that time, one of New Jersey's largest and oldest state-funded facilities. And I had so many of my clients, bro, coming. Even Chris Herron did me a solid 1 year and came. And Chris, in my eyes, is the goat of recovery. He's the best speaker
love Chris.
ever.
I've seen him speak.
I
met him.
Texted me last week.
I met him.
You met him already?
I met him, yeah.
Good.
I met him. I watched him speak at LBJC.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy, man. And we got sober 29 days apart in 2008 and didn't even know it. He's August 1st.
Yeah, he went to
Fred,
daycare.
if you're listening, I know you got the big 17 coming up. But, so, yeah, he came. Rodman came. Magic came 1 year. Mickey Ward and his brother Dickie Eklund, who Dickie played the Christian Bale character in The Fighter.
Uh-huh.
So he was in recovery then too, and Vince Neil even came from Motley Crue. They had a concert, and he came in here. So we raised a lot of money, and I started realizing, like, there's something to this. Like, I've got access to a lot of people that can put eyeballs on my mission, and my dad, even like up to like a couple days before he passed, every other week he would just send me an email or leave me a voicemail, just keep doing this. It's going to be your legacy. And then when I got to say goodbye to him, Dad was always in perfect health. All the isms came from my mother's side of the family, nothing from my dad's. And February 14th of 2017, he passed on the 15th. He had an aortic aneurysm that went undetected. So he was in and out of a coma for 32 days. Eventually came through, got sepsis, and we knew that it was time to put him into hospice. But I had the blessing, bro, to have a sober father who had a sober son relationship for 8.5 years. And Hulk Hogan, I think you saw one of the videos I posted about it, called me up. And, Hulk's a spiritual brother. And he goes, brother, you know what you got to do? You got to get some alone time with your dad. Forget going with your mom and your sister. It's different. I know the way he looks at you. He's holding on because he wants you to tell him it's okay to pass. And he goes, I know it's going to be tough, but I had that blessing with my dad. So I went there by myself on February 14th. I'll never forget. It was Valentine's Day, and I held his hand, and I was rubbing his head. And Dad and I weren't affectionate like that, but it was nice because I know it was comforting him. And I said, Dad, this incredible part of my journey to inspire other people in the rooms of feeling so comfortable during the most uncomfortable time of my life has made me realize that I can get through anything and sober. And you want to keep fighting or tell me what's going on? And if you're 75%, maybe it's worth sticking around a little bit more. And he looked left. He had a tube down his throat and everything. He was in good shape, and he looked back, and it had to be the hardest thing he had to do. And he goes like this. I said, okay. I said, look. I said, I'm the best place I've ever been. I said, go see Grandma, Grandpa, Joe and Muhammad, Uncle Alan, Uncle Joe. I say, tell them all I love them. And I go, but you are going to watch your son touch the world from up there. And because of this whole experience.
It's incredible.
And it was just, you talk about God shot after God shot. He passed, that's over 600 people at his funeral. The week after that, Turning Point calls me up. They wanted to honor me with the first annual Hope and Recovery Gala Award. So that's when I hired a speech coach, because I wanted to make sure this wasn't no AA speech. I'm like, I needed to create something that penetrate the masses. I did the speech, and I get a literally email the next morning from Rona Graff, who was Donald Trump's executive assistant forever. And it was at the time that I announced my book was coming out, and she's like, they want you at the White House. They saw your speech because it went viral on Facebook Live. And so now I'm up on Long Island speaking to 1,800 kids, and I got to change around going to another school to get on a plane and fly to Washington, D.C., where Trump is signing the $8 billion opiate epidemic bill.
Oh, wow.
And it was just one. I mean, I was almost numb, if you know what I'm saying, because you experienced it. Look what happened with you. You had it before me, but you took it to another level after we met. And it was just one request after the other. And because, Hulk Hogan said it best on the quote that he gave from my book. He goes, Darren came to God for the blessing, and God eventually said to him, because you came correct, it's time I make you a blessing to other people.
Fuck.
And it's every day. It's just the emotion. You want to cry, and you want to dance, and you want to fly.
I know.
And so sometimes he sent me messages, bro, it's unbelievable what's happening. It's like, he goes, I can't even, I was like, of course it is. I've been living this way for 8 years. I just have a little bit of a head start. And there are days sometimes where it's just like, it's unbelievable. Who would have actually thought that we're all chosen in our own way? But I think when the surrender comes in, I think when the service comes in, I think when the authenticity comes in, because authenticity is the highest frequency in the universe.
Yes.
And you and I live it every day. Still knowing we're not perfect, that we're perfectly imperfect. But the first and most important thing is keeping the gift we have and finding others that we can share the message.
Yes. That means everything.
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 Everything. And it's just been nonstop. I mean, I believe probably in the past 2 years, the two biggest blessings in recovery for me were getting connected with our boy Lingerie, who taught me about even deeper personal development work, because I'm sure you agree, a little bit of the fellowship, even though it's 90 years old from June 10th, 1935, it's a little bit outdated.
Yes.
There's a lot of things
100%.
that we don't want to be the guys to keep doing a 10th step and continue to take our inventory when we're wrong. I want to get to the root cause of that character defect, get rid of it.
Yeah.
I want to pinpoint the trauma, whatever that hurt is, whenever it was in my childhood, teenage years, early adult years, and through meditation, through breath work, find it and just obliterate it and not have to think about it again. Because to keep doing a personal inventory, why? And then I think the second biggest blessing was you, because it was from the very first phone call.
I love you.
That it was like from that very first phone call that we had, it was not normal. It was not friggin' normal. We were crying on the phone.
I believe
after
it.
20 minutes.
I love you two so much.
It was just, and they were talking. How much we love crying. And I tell people all the time, they go, no, that's where the growth is. That's the best part about life. I go, I grew up around so many of the macho. No. Real humans, real men. know how to tap into their emotions. And that's why our frequency and our vibration
So
keeps
high.
getting higher and higher and higher, because we don't want to suppress anymore.
No.
We were laughing and crying before we came into the rooms out of pain and out of shame and embarrassment. Now we laugh when we cry because it's real.
Yeah.
And we want other people to see that this is us.
Yes.
We ain't going to hide any of it.
Yes.
The best place we've ever been, and one day at a time we want to keep doing whatever we have to do through personal development, healing, service, helping, God, to make the world a better place.
Absolutely, Darren. Oh, man, you couldn't have said it any better, brother. Freaking crying over here.
And you and Ammo too, who I hope you get next week. You guys met, it took about a minute, and I'm at the Aspire event. You guys are in the front row. I start crying looking at you two guys, just feeling like you found your long lost brother, because I knew that was going to happen.
Well, I feel like everything that I've been through, like, I feel like God brought you, Ammo, to me. I needed it. You know, I know this is your interview, but I needed you guys, all of you guys, in my life when you showed up.
Well,
know?
it works both ways.
I know, but for me,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
All right, so back to the interview.
She missed all the tears.
So you've gone through your transformation, right? What is life like for Darren Prince today?
Life is like, I probably have 25 to 26 good days a month, which is the best it's ever been. Because again, life still comes at you.
Of course.
We're not perfect.
No.
I like to live, once you understand putting the plug in the jug and throwing out the drugs, we have to be spiritual individuals. We have to try to understand people instead of us being understood. In the heat of an argument, where the real strength is? For both you guys listening, next time this happens, somebody sends you a text or leaves a voicemail or pisses you off, stay in that frequency of feeling all right instead of right. So you do that the rest of your day. That's when abundance comes. That self-control of understanding someone else instead of us being understood. Mel Robbins, the let them theory.
Yeah.
Let them be who they're going to be, because I'm not going to let me out of my frequency.
Right.
Watch the blessings that happen,
totally agree
because
with that.
you will get an emotional hangover by engaging that it's not
agree.
worth it. And you and I, we had enough physical hangovers. When we get an emotional one, there's no telling when that's going to leave.
Yeah.
Because we open up our big phone. Now, I'm still not perfect. It still might happen a couple of times a year, but like Steve Deloitte, my sponsor, he using that works as like a spiritual big brother now, but he says it. He goes, look, say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. That's how I live life. Because once in a while, you got to remember, too, we don't get sober to not love ourselves from the inside. We're not doormats. And once in a while, I've had it myself, you got to put your foot down and you got to be a little bit more firm.
Yeah.
He goes, you're going to know you're right. You know when? He goes, if you raise that frequency of your voice, or you send a message that you would normally think you shouldn't send, and you get what you were expecting to get because it was the right thing to do, that's when you know you're right, and there's no emotional hangover. And I've had those moments too, because some people have to understand we're not doormats.
Yeah.
And you can't walk on us.
Yeah.
And it's coming from a place of self-love and self-respect. Yeah, you could push somebody away. Learn what my good friend Joel Osteen always says, love people from a distance. But that sometimes leaves some resentment inside too. So I think occasionally we do need to put our foot down. But I'd like to, like I said, I like to always try to do it the way of say what I mean what I say, and don't say it mean. Because I think when you do that, it's almost like how our parents used to say when we were growing up. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I think that's obviously where the real strength comes, because then the abundance just keeps flowing, And, getting back to my life, Prince Marketing Group, we're just always, super busy, man. It's whether it's Magic, Larry Bird, Hulk, Ric Flair, Goggins, Carmen Electra, Chevy Chase. I mean, there's just so many Dominique Wilkins, that you get to work with. But, that's like, it's fun. It's like a career now, but it's not what really gets me out of bed. That's just, what I've been doing now for 31 years. And they're all family at this point. But for me, it's really about my Aiming High Foundation, my 501c3.
Talk about that.
I think you saw last week on my sober birthday, my dear friend Sean Callagay, who's a very well-known legally blind
I know him
from New Jersey.
I went on his podcast.
Yeah.
I'm blinded. Mm-hmm.
And he's been on 20 stages with Tony Robbins. He his office overnighted me. I got it right before 8 in the morning, like a 7:30 a.m. Delivery from FedEx on my sober birthday with a $25,000 donation from my Aiming High Foundation, which with the relationships I have with sober living facilities and treatment centers, that's going to allow us to save 5 or 6 more lives, or at least put them on the track to get the life they've always deserved. This is like stuff that's everything to me because, like I said on Jay Shetty's podcast, is the opposite of addiction is connection.
Absolutely.
And if we did this on Zoom, it's more difficult. It doesn't mean we're not going to cry. It doesn't mean the connection's not going to be there. But there's nothing like the frequency when we're sitting in front of each other and your audience, and people need to see that to transfer out of whatever screen they're watching and into their hearts and into their souls, to realize we do recover. And there's power in community and being around each other. Mm-hmm. And I still do plenty of Zoom 12-step meetings, just because sometimes my schedule is crazy. And the isolator ones, you should jump on. The isolator one is incredible. Tom, our boy Tom.
Send it to me.
Yeah. I'll send you the link. It's 6 o'clock. For you, I think it's 8 o'clock every day. It's such a great freaking group, man. But I'll get to as many in-persons as I can. I'd say 5 meetings on average a week. Like I've gone 3 days in a row without a meeting, and I knew I'd be off today because it's my 4th, because of travel and things. But you're my meeting. You're my meeting. You know what I'm saying? This frequency is my meeting.
Absolutely.
Because I also learned that I didn't get sober to hide out in the 12-step rooms. I got sober to learn how to live life the other 23 hours of the day.
Absolutely.
I got sober to control my emotions the best that I can.
Absolutely.
I got sober to learn how to communicate better to people. I got sober to deal with my character defects. And like I said, you and I speak the same language with personal development because we're into so much biohacking and things that a lot of spiritual brothers and sisters aren't, so I wanted to be uncommon amongst the uncommon. And so to me, I took recovery to another level. I've preached it. I've taken so many spiritual brothers and sisters that I know ask about, oh my God, how do you look so young at 55? Or, I heard you talking about this on an interview. I saw you post about this. Yeah, there's so much out there. And a lot of this stuff, you don't need to have a lot of money for any of it. Yeah, you can't log on YouTube for free and find a meditator and learn how to do breath work properly. You can't afford a $99 hydrogen water bottle. Start with that. Do that for a week.
Just drink more water in general.
Do that for a week. And
move your body.
You can't buy a $99 frequency mat to lie on and meditate on and sit on and put your feet on and take your shirt off and lie on it. Watch what happens to the inflammation in your body.
Yeah.
But everything I just said is under $200.
Mm-hmm. You could also just stand in grass.
Yeah.
I work out in my yard.
Yep.
No shirt on.
Oh, bro.
In the grass.
She was sleeping late today. I worked out in the bathroom today. My boy John Alvino is another component to my personal development, is an NLP practitioner at the highest level. So we actually went to New Jersey to see him back in May and did some neurolinguistic program. And I've done several sessions over the years, and that's really, really intense, deep stuff, where you go back into certain childhood moments and you reverse the roles, so you're actually playing your
the inner child work. Yes, I've done that.
It's
I've done
like
it.
Tony Robbins.
I've done it. Psychodrama.
So, yeah, and we, we talk about so much of the stuff all the time that you're able to, tap into that, and how there's so many people still making excuses. Like, okay, you can't get to the gym. Can you do 10 sets of body weight squats of 20 apiece? Can you put your feet up on the end of the bed and bang out 10 sets of 20 push-ups and take a freaking chair like that and tell me you can't do dips and you can't do, body weight squats? I'll give you a 45-minute workout routine in the freaking damn hotel room. There's no excuses.
No excuses.
No excuses. This room right here is a perfect place that you can design a crazy-ass workout if you can't get to the gym.
It's our non-negotiable daily habits that create our lives.
And the consistency. A lot of people talk about discipline. And I go, discipline doesn't do it. There's a lot of people that are disciplined to not do what they're supposed to be doing. It's the consistency of doing the right thing each and every day where you could feel that growth. And yeah, you're entitled to take a day or two off. Goggins doesn't believe it, But, I do have to take a day or two off here and there, because just like you, when you're living in a frequency of giving and it's just so many people taking and taking, you got to be selfish at times.
Absolutely.
To take back
for yourself,
to continue to be selfless.
Absolutely. We need to charge our battery.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful, brother. Amazing.
And who would have thought, if it wasn't for Prince Digital Group, our new little business venture, I wouldn't be sitting here
with me.
That's how we met. He was looking to kind of get his brand out a lot more the way that I was. And I said, look, I've invested so much money into my personal brand over the years that, I know the model. I know the model for authors, entrepreneurs, people of impact, people of influence, to really get you out there, because your story is unbelievable.
And I appreciate you so much for that. I have so many DMs daily of people that I help. Like on Sunday, I talked to a guy from killing himself.
Unbelievable.
Just an hour of my time. And I said to him, I hope you're watching. I said to him, because he has a little boy. It was just a guy that DM'd me, And I got on the phone with him for an hour, and he has a little kid. And I said, brother, let me tell you something. I just took an hour of my life, and I don't even know your name. So you take time now for your son to be here for him. Because if you take yourself out, that gets passed down to him.
Yep.
And you become the one now to change everything,
Yep.
How beautiful. But if you don't come in my life, that doesn't happen. We don't see how all of our actions affect other people's actions, and how other people come into our lives at certain times, and how you indirectly affected that man.
It's this,
you know what I mean?
It's those little bleeps in life. I mean, even with Nutsa, she gets a kick out of the story. It was February 23rd, 2023. It was a Sunday night. For whatever reason, I'm bored as heck. I'm home with my dog Rodney by myself, flipping through the channels on a Sunday night. And I stop on American Idol. I haven't watched American Idol like you guys since it was in its heyday, the first 5, 6, or 7 years. And it's the audition week. And she comes in like a bolt of energy. And I see Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie going wild over her and her talent. She was so good, they had her do 2 completely different genres of songs. They wanted something a little bit more, I think, a cappella, right, with Whitney. And then, what was the other lady? Lemon Marmite? Yeah, so it went from here to here, where both of them, she crushed it. And Luke Bryan called her the J-Lo from Georgia, but not Atlanta, Georgia, not the state Georgia, Georgia, the country. Yeah. And Lionel Richie went crazy. Katy Perry said, they were nuts for Nutsa eventually. She got so drawn into her. And I looked her up online, and I saw that she was already a star over in Europe. And my marketing brain, having clients that have been controversial, Charlie Sheen, Rodman, anybody I've worked with over the years that have had issues at certain point in their career or their lives. And I was like, this is amazing. This girl's already well established. American Idol knew exactly what they're doing. They needed somebody for ratings. There's no shot she's going to win, because when she gets down to the top 10 finalists, she's going to lose all her voters because people in Europe are not allowed to vote. And they know that she's mega talented. So she's going to gain half the country that are going to love her. And then the other half, they might love her, but they're going to be pissed that she took the spot of an unknown in America that could have been on this show. That's exactly what happened. So I DM'd her, and she got right back to me. I was like, I'm cheering for you, unbelievable job. And every couple of weeks I would send her a DM. And eventually when she made it as a finalist and didn't get through to the next round, we met in May of 2023. It was about 3 months after that date that I found her online, and we met at the W Hotel where they had the whole cast. And very little bit was about business. It started off with our love of God and the way that we live. And we're obviously very different people from them, but we still put God first in our life, always, no matter how much growth there's been in those 2.5 years. And who would have thought? I mean, when she moved in on March 2nd, it was really because everything in her career was just aligning, and she finally wanted to keep her frequency in America, understanding, it's good and great to go to Europe and perform and do all the private events and public events and festivals, but you really got to keep it here. Give it 6 months or a year in America, and let's make you a household name. Then a month later, God had other plans, or additional plans, I should say, actually, because it turned into a romantic relationship. And then on June 7th, I proposed. So now I'm a fiance and agent.
I love it.
That's dope, Chris.
I just can't wait for him to be a dad. I know I shouldn't be throwing that out there, but he's going to be the best dad. I mean, really, he has to be.
It's the only reason. We talked about this the other day. I mean, when I lost my mom in November, and thank God she got to have a sober son for 16 and a half years, I just kind of, there was a weird place of like not being fulfilled in life. It's like, you know what? Oh, she wanted a grandkid so bad. I didn't give her one. My sister didn't give her one. I ended a relationship I was with then, and I was like, I'm taking time to myself. So lingerie put me on this 4.5 month path of just being hyper focused on self-love and time by myself. And it was amazing. Business, took off in a whole nother direction, and a lot of self-discovery. And Emma would call me every once in a while, like, he calls me Baba. You gotta have a kid. He goes, I know that I see the way you're with your dog Rodney. I say, Emma, I'm never gonna meet anybody that I would ever think about having a kid with. Number one. Number two, I'm getting older. I was like, I'm probably just gonna be like my uncle was the last 10, 15, 20 years of his life, and probably have a girlfriend for a couple of years, then be single, and he goes, nah. He goes, I'm telling you. And the crazy thing about Emma was back in February of 23, I told him about her, and I sent him a link on YouTube, and then I posted a picture with her and I in May when we first met. And he said it both times. He goes, I don't think you realize this, because you just met somebody that's going to be the next big star, but you also met your future wife. He said this right away.
Wow.
And I go, bro, you've been around with Pamela Anderson in her heyday, Carmen Electra. No way. I was like, I would never, ever would that happen with the client. This is purely business. And
then here you are. The world needs good parents. That's the reality.
Yep.
It really does. It needs good parents. So I know you guys will make amazing parents.
And I've done a few podcasts where it's come up. I forget the guy in L.A. that Matilda went with me to, and very, very successful treatment center owner. And when he found out at that time, I think I did his maybe in like September of last year. He goes, you're not married, you have no kids. He goes, oh, this is a tragedy, man. He goes, with everything you've been through, because you would be the most amazing father
brother,
in the world. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, bro, I was on steroids. I messed up my spine. I started getting into this whole thing. And technology now. Are you kidding me, bro?
Yeah.
So much out there that they can do.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And he's like, you got to keep an open mind to this, because you think you have fulfillment now in your life. You have no idea. And I know the way you are with you.
You have no idea.
I was crying 3 weeks ago just from the thought of you messaging me that you're at like Little League and baseball with your son on the weekend, because I knew what that meant for me and my dad. I remember just waking up in the morning and going to the park in my uniform and just having the catch with my dad in the morning and him hitting line drives at me. Because I played college baseball my freshman year in college.
I didn't know that.
I was at University of Bridgeport. I made it as a walk-on in first
get
base.
outta here.
My dad turned me into a savage defending the ball. Well, I actually broke my nose twice that year off of some bad hops in practice when the ball hit
the heel.
Baseman. So,
Yeah.
Hit the heel.
Right in the nose.
But he took the fear out of me with that ball and would just like wail the liners at me, and I was just unbelievable in the field. And what happened was I came in a little bit light my freshman year in college, and everybody was on cycles, so I just freaking started with D-ball and freaking Anavar. And I remember coming home for Thanksgiving that you have to bring up at school for 4 months, and Steve Simon, he never told you this story, who runs my agency now. We go back since I was 10. He comes to pick me up in my house so we can get a bite to eat. And I got in the car. He goes, bro. I was like, who's this monster getting into my car? Because it's like you put on 35 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
So that was like hitting dingers too, because I just went along with it with everybody and was on 2 or 3 heavy cycles of steroids, and I went from like 180 to 215.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah. In the gym twice a day, and
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
Steroids?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that definitely didn't help with the heart, you know?
You're right.
Drugs, steroids, trauma.
Yeah, I wrote about it in my book. I mean, I had a couple of roid rages that were terrible. One of my dad, one of my sister, where I almost threw them both into a wall. And then the real dagger was when I was urinating blood. So I remember the place called the Ground Round.
Yes.
You know, it's on the floor.
Yeah. The cartoons.
Yeah.
Remember the cartoons? Yeah.
Monday Night Football. It's only an East Coast place.
I'm from Massachusetts.
He's from Massachusetts.
Right? Okay. So we went to watch a Monday Night Football game, me and my boys, and I was on Anadrol at that point.
Yeah,
And
very strong.
some
That's
injections,
very
bro.
strong.
Yeah, that's when it ended. I looked down in the urinal and it's just bright red blood, and
And that's just us searching for external validation to make ourselves feel good.
Yep.
When we do the steroids and shit like that, you know.
Yep.
So we're searching for the outside.
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
It does give you a little bit of euphoria, because when you're freaking out
Superman?
feeling jacked and looking jacked, and everybody's telling you how great you're looking.
Yeah.
People aren't telling you how great it is that you're high, but steroids was a different one. Where people, guys are looking at me and admiring me. Women are paying a lot more attention to me, and it was a whole nother level of euphoria
100%.
that came from broken self-esteem.
100%. Well, brother, I just want to thank you so much for coming on today. Jason, do you have anything for Darren?
I've been sitting with the image of the contrast between being removed from your body, high on Vicodin, watching, first of all, the experience that you've had, like the privilege to be able to witness that Joe Frazier Ali moment, right? And then you were high and checked out. That's a super amazing story, just in the sense of what was going on in the room. And I also, from someone who's been in recovery for a long time, I did some stuff around 9/11 that was not honorable, in the sense of I was getting high and drunk when it happened, and I was in the military and ruined my career. And so the only thing I have to relate to that is that, but it's similar in the sense of I had a lot of shame about that. So I was really connected to that piece. And then you talk about your dad being sober and having this moment, holding his hand and giving him permission and letting him know you were okay. And that contrast is such a beautiful picture of what happens for people in recovery. Like those two, they're two pillars, right? It's like when I look at your story, and I listened intently today, and I know how close you and Frank are, so I wanted you to have a lot of that interaction. But man, I'm thinking about this father figure in Joe being high, watching this moment, and the process of recovery that allowed you to be so present for your dad. And what a gift, right? And that's the piece that I got really excited about.
I'll give you 2 more before we sign off. So when I knew in 2011 that Joe's liver cancer came back in September, and the doctor's misdiagnosis, hepatitis C, came back, which we got in his fighting days, which was quite common. I got to go to the hospital to see him. I had a big event with Hulk Hogan in Pennsylvania, so I was one of the few that was allowed to the hospital on that Sunday morning. I'm 3.5 years sober. So I got to see him and hold his hand, and we laughed about going to the blackjack table in Atlantic City. He liked the big butts on the big black woman. So I go, hey, champ, we're gonna get some big ass booty black. And he's smiling. He goes, "Rrr, rrr." He would like bark, and he was in good shape then. He didn't go downhill yet, but so I was able to be present. He passes on November 7, 2011, and it was on 2 nights before Monday Night Football. That was in Philly, Joe's hometown. On that November 5th, I'm at his high-rise in Philly. I was invited to be there. They were putting him into hospice. He did not want me to see him, so I was in the living room. And it was his business manager, his daughter, Wita, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and his longtime caretaker, Denise, who I still speak with once in a while. And Lonnie Ali calls me because it broke all over the internet and the news that Joe Frazier was in hospice. And she goes, is there any way if Muhammad and I flew up that we can come see Joe? This is the worst I've seen Muhammad since his mother passed away. I said, Lonnie, Joe will come back to heaven and kill us all. I'm not even allowed to see him in this condition. Apparently, he lost a bunch of weight. He's in his bedroom right now with his caretakers. She goes, I understand. She goes, I'll look forward to hearing from you on the arrangements. You ready for this? And you can see video of this on YouTube. I escorted Muhammad Ali and Lonnie Ali to Joe's funeral, sober.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Sober.
Yes.
And I remember walking in, and my dad was there, my mom was there, my boy Nick was there, Chuck Zito came with us. I got Chuck very close with Joe over the years, and I remember just looking up at the sky being like, now you know you earned it. Because I had 3.5 years of sobriety under my belt, and I knew that every fiber of my soul earned the love and the respect and the admiration of these two warriors. And it's the first time in my life that here it's years removed from the prime years of working with them. But to have that revelation and to know, like, people seeing Ali walk in, and Don King was there, and no, but he's walking in with me and his wife. And, you know, he sat one row behind me with Don King and I think Larry Holmes. And then when Ali passed in June 16th of 2016, that was, I mean, to me, that was even bigger than Michael Jackson, because Ali was just such a beloved worldwide figure. I sent Lonnie Ali a text. I'm 8 years sober at this point. And she goes, I sure hope you'll be able to attend in Kentucky the funeral. She goes, it's going to be a big one. And it wouldn't be the same without you. So I flew out there by myself. And I mean, that was another one. It was Tyson, Will Smith, Billy Crystal, anybody, you name it. And to walk into this room of everybody near and dear of the Ali circle and family and know that this was probably the second time since Joe's memorial that they've ever seen me sober. And like, you deserve this. You earned this. You know?
Yeah, I do know.
On that level of respect. And not from an arrogant place. From an inner peace, God-loving, God-serving place. And that was just incredible. You talk about when life comes full circle from that 2002 All-Star moment that I got to see both of them in 2011, 2016 at their funerals and memorials and be able to pay respect to both the highest, best version of me.
Incredible.
Incredible, bro.
I'm glad I said something because we didn't know that. So that's incredible.
You know, I mean, you talk about redemption. It doesn't, you know, and closure.
Just a really clear picture of what you shared about regarding the sort of the reasons for the drug use, right? Which is like not worthy, no self-love, to self-love and worth, in the recovery sense. Really cool.
And we were talking this morning too, a lot of it is, the way the parents are. My father was a perfect human being to me, as perfect as anybody. But my mother and sister, to this day, my sister, the anxiety and the freaking smothering, Jewish, it's no different with the Italians.
I know.
Call me when you get there. I just left the hat. Like, it was, I couldn't go 10, 15 minutes without, having to reach out and tell her I got somewhere. So you learn as you go through the personal development, these little triggers that you can sort of recognize and work through. And you as a father now have the blessing to not repeat those same patterns to your child.
Absolutely. It's the most beautiful thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, this is great, man.
What an honor and privilege, brother, to have you on the podcast. We appreciate you so much. I mean, the listeners are going to appreciate this so much.
All we got to do is get to one.
That's it.
We just got to get to one, and we did God's work.
Absolutely.
And we cried. It was good.
Oh, bro, when you started
You
talking
two
about
missed-
your dad, I started thinking about my
the
dad.
breakdown
You know?
moments.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I hope to have that moment with me and Sonny that you had with your dad.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Where can everyone find you on, out there, for the listeners that don't know you? Because everyone knows you, but maybe some people don't know you.
So Instagram is @agent_DP, Darren Prince on Facebook. I think I have my own website, official DarrenPrince.com. The business is PrinceMarketingGroup.com. But I think most important is the AimingHighFoundation.org.
Yes.
That's my 501c3 that, allows us to scholarship people in need of treatment and mental health struggles. And 100% of the proceeds goes towards that. There's nobody on payroll, anybody that volunteers. My girls Matilda and Carla in the office do everything.
Hello, Matilda and Carla. I love both of you.
They do everything I need for the foundation. They know how important it is and how rewarding it is for them too. When they see that somebody got into treatment because of their hard work with the administrative office of the treatment center or the sober living facility, and when we raise money, it's just a win for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah,
it's been amazing.
Love you too.
Awesome.
Thank you for connecting with us on today's episode of the Emotion Podcast, where we discuss all things mental health. Connect every week as we explore incredibly intimate stories of persistence and hope, delve into mental health education, and explore valuable resources. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.